The recording is on, and I think we can start. So, good afternoon to all of you, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And the topic of our webinar is the truth behind the AI and how to tame the GenAI for accurate and efficient investigation. Together with me here is Martin Kovar. My name is Dominik Regner. I am a sales manager for Cogniware. And Martin?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dominic. My name is Martin. I'm product manager in Cogniware. You know, I like this topic a lot, so I'm very excited to tackle all the issues. Although we don't have too much time, and it's so much to speak about. So hopefully we will try to get to all topics. I guess guys can ask us questions, right? In the chat straight away.
Yeah, definitely. You can write your questions in the chat, and we also will have some kind of a time in the end of the webinar to answer the questions in the Q&A session.
Right. And since we are running out of time, do you mind if I introduce the company very quickly and what we do? Just a couple of minutes. It will be very quick. We work for a company called Cogniware. We are on the market for more than 10 years now. We have established ourselves in the domain of law enforcement, intelligence, and commercial investigations for quite some time. We are operating worldwide, and we are providing specialized software and specialized services for this topic. But the key product of ours is called Argos. It's an AI-based investigation platform that helps investigators and data analysts work with big data in whatever structure they have. We have the whole intelligence cycle embedded in. We start with case management, assigning tasks and orchestrating all the workflow. And then we are ingesting a lot of data from various sources in various forms. And we are applying different AI and non-AI techniques to identify suspicious relationships between people, vehicles, organizations, financial accounts, etc. We are looking at the domain of geospatial and locations. So we can tell what is the most frequent location for specific targets, what is the history of call data records for a certain device, and so on. We're looking at timelines, so we can establish the time behavior of specific targets and spot some suspicious patterns that are recurring. And also we are targeting the issue of multimedia content. So obviously we work with documents, audio, video, and images. Now, all of this is orchestrated via our data processing pipeline. Most of the time, our solutions are on-prem, highly secured for our clients, which comes from law enforcement agencies, intelligence agencies, security departments for commercial organizations like insurance companies, banks, and so on. Now, for data processing, we are using internal data sets, which come from the customers, or external data like OSINT, blockchain, ledgers, and so on. During the processing, we are working with video analytics. We can apply face recognition, which is our own. We're applying voice biometric, speaker identification, speech-to-text processing, and working with text. So in long short, this is what we do.
Perfect. Thank you for the short introduction. We are not trying to make it like the overview of what we can do in Cogniware. The topic is about the AI, so let's take a look at it and how we think about the AI in the investigation. Because nowadays the AI is all over the place. I guess that all of you are using some kind of the AI tool. It can be ChatGPT, it can be Gemini, it can be Grok from DX, it can be whatever you would like to use. And I think that we can agree that now it really helps us to be more productive, to do the summaries, to do the translation, actually to help you with the daily work and save a lot of time for us. So that's the reason why we took a look into the investigation in the cooperation with the AI, because there is a funny GIF, I guess. If you click once more, I guess it's going to be there. Yeah, that's the GIF we prepared, because when you think about the investigation and the AI implementation in the investigation, it fits perfectly. We are talking about asking the questions inside the investigation. You are looking for the answers. That's what you do as the investigator. You are looking for the data-driven knowledge, because you have a lot of data and you are asking the questions based on the data you have. And the same is about the complexity of the analysis. You know that the investigation is always like a very complex situation where you are asking a question to the LLM, and if we are able to use the AI to somehow help us with these topics, it looks like a fairy tale where the rainbow and the unicorn is, you know, dancing in the picture, and it looks really like it's going to fulfill all of our needs.
Sounds like it's too good to be true, right? At the end. So you know what, Dominic? Let's take a role play, okay? I see you can take part of the AI skeptic. You can challenge me. What can be the problems in there? Because I suppose you tackled some of the issues. Maybe we can talk about that. Now, I'm not the AI expert per se. I believe there are many different people in our company who are the actual experts, but let me be the AI enthusiast and take the role of them. So
yeah, what I did as the AI skeptic is that I took ChatGPT 4.0 and I tried to ask some kind of a random investigation question. Here in Czech Republic, we had quite a huge terrorist attack last year. And what I tried is to ask the question about this kind of attack. And I asked about what nationalities were involved in this terrorist attack in Prague. And ChatGPT took a look into the internet and answered me some question. And the question looks absolutely reliable. There is the name of the terrorist. There is the number of the victims. We can see that there are even the resources of this kind of research. But when I took a deeper look into the results, I saw that there are some kind of false information about the number of killed victims, about the date, because the date was different, was connected with another date. So what I can see over here is that I tried some kind of out-of-the-box, very strong LLM model, tried to ask the question, and it didn't give me the correct information. So from my point of view, the out-of-the-box LLMs are not at all a solution for the investigators. And that's not the only problem about the accuracy and the reliability. For example, we can take a look at the point of view of the security of the data. Because when we are talking about the investigation, we are talking about the Ministry of Defense, about the military intelligence, about the Ministry of Interior. And the data is sensitive per se. So how can I secure, Martin, how can I secure the data in my organization?
Right. You tackled quite a good point. And to be honest, there are many aspects from your demo that goes wrong. Let's start with the security and the sensitivity of the data. Majority of our clients work on-prem. They deal with very, very crucially sensitive data that cannot be shared outside of the organization. And all the information that are coming into the organization are vetted, okay, or needs to be somehow assessed. So there's zero possibility for these kinds of investigations to use open source or commercially available tools that are not inside their premises. And it has the impact of course, working with data that are not trusted. First rule that we apply, always deploy local large language models or AI models. Do not use any publicly available models because first of all, it's a security risk. Second of all, you are, let's say, bounded with legal issues not to share the information. And third of all, which is the most important one, you cannot be trusted with these information. So we need to be sure that we work only with the data that we trust. So we do not, in our platform, in our thinking, how we usually recommend to use the LLM and AI, we do not recommend sharing any data, including the prompt, including the question, outside of the organization. And we always deploy local to protect the queries and the data involved inside this. So that's the difference for now.
Okay, but you know, the on-prem model, that's going to cost me a fortune. Like, how am I able to deploy the on-prem model, which is going to keep the performance, keep the accuracy, and I am not going to get bankrupt?
This topic is quite difficult because it's changing every day, right? There are new models coming here and then, and the new models become more and more efficient. So the costs are getting lower. However, there are some techniques that can be applied. They can save you some money, because there are always initiatives like trying to fine tune certain models. But from my experience, for the law enforcement investigations, for the intelligence investigation or commercial investigations, bank security departments, there is no need actually to fine tune your own models, because for the typical task, we can leverage specifically designed models. So it's all about choosing the proper model, which is low cost on inference, right? So it's always about changing and designing your workflow and using the proper model for it, because there are huge differences in terms of how this can be used. So avoid tuning and come with some predefined, but wisely selected. We are here to always help with what kind of models are at the state of the art at that specific moment for you to use.
Okay. Okay, so you said that the models can be somehow specific, but how can I ensure that when I am not doing the fine tuning, the models actually use the up-to-date data? Because I would like to ask the model about my current investigation.
Right. So the rule of thumb is never use pre-trained knowledge of those large language models. First of all, we do not know what was used to train those models. We don't know whether they are biased, in certain way. So we use LLMs as a language interface rather than the knowledge of the data. And we are using techniques that are called RAG, or in long, retrieval augmented generation. And basically, we are retrieving the vetted and trusted data from our internal databases using various techniques, and we are providing this in a context to the large language model just to explain the results. So we never use LLM as the pre-trained knowledge, because you would need to do the like fine-tuning or retraining the model every day, every second, every minute. This is really not good strategy. So we are using RAG to build our questions to our vetted repository. And this has a lot of benefits, to be honest, because we can deal with security now. Every let's say data about targets, whether it's person, organization, vehicle, and so on, they're connected to the case. The case has its boundary. Only selected people can see those data, right? These are heavily secured organizations. Now, having everything in large language model is a huge security breach, but this prevents us. So we are using RAG to retrieve only the context of the data that is necessary to answer your questions, and still we are focusing on the security and preventing some unauthorized access to the data. Also, new technique, which hasn't been possible lately or in the previous years or months, was the context window limitation. We started with like 4,000 tokens inside the context window. Context window, for those of you who are not aware of this, is the amount of information that is pushed into the large language model that can answer you based on. So basically, whether these are instructions or your data. Now, these context windows are actually heavily increasing now. We have 128,000 tokens right now in one of the open source models, and this amount will be increasing as well. So by combination of RAG and large context windows, we can actually, let's say, focus on this topic and the problem of yours to have updated data with a trusted environment.
Okay, but yeah, I showed you the demonstration of one of the huge models, the ChatGPT 4o, and it gives me like the not correct information. How I am able, with these kind of a smaller model, with the bigger contextual window, how I am able to be sure that the information is not false? Because when I am doing the investigation, this is for me the critical thing. I cannot rely on the results of the LLM model where there is going to be the falsehood.
Right. It's kind of a good question. We have multiple techniques for this. The easiest, most obvious one is we don't let the system to be too much creative. So we set up some parameters to lower down the creativity. Let's say ensure that the answer is always the same, right? So that's the first point. Second point, we are using different ROC techniques that are usually known, like typical baseline vector ROC. We are using something that we call graph ROC. And it's very complex method of working with a lot of unstructured text and a lot of knowledge, because we can always do level of abstractions. And this is very important concept, because in normal typical workflows with working with LLMs, you can ask questions like, if you provide documents about Dominic and there is some description about your vehicle, you can ask, so what kind of vehicle is Dominic driving? Okay, this is fine. But what if you have 1,000 PDF files and you want to ask more generic questions like, what vehicle is used by people in their 30s that are connected to some sort of drug investigations? Or you can refine more generic questions. So this is available with GraphRock, and we can always provide a source and citations, so references to the parts that were extracted. So by combination of good prompt engineering techniques, so you will say, act as an assistant for law enforcement officer, always have the result in a predefined format. This is like the first step. Second step, you retrieve only the relevant kind of information using ROC techniques that are not publicly too much known. And the third one is use some feedback loops and reasoning techniques, such as chain of thought, and choose the models wisely. So this goes more technical, okay? So you can see this topic is quite difficult to deploy, but there are techniques how to, let's say, ensure that even with smaller models, which are of no cost of the large OpenAI models available commercially, we can still achieve hugely precise results, even in on-premise environments.
Okay, so let's imagine that I have done everything you mentioned. I choose the model, I decided to connect it with the rack. I set up all of these, techniques about how to ask the prompts. I connect it to my workflow. I have the up-to-date data. I have everything of these kind of stuff ready, and it's working. I am super happy. Everything is working. But nowadays, like the new models, which are better and better, are popping up like, like a popcorn in the microwave every day. Every day I can see the news, like now is better this one, this is smaller, the conceptual window is bigger for this one. Isn't all the work I already done using these kind of advices you provided to me as the customer, bounding me to the solution I have? Because before 2 years we were not able to even imagine what today models are able to do. So I will spend a lot of money, prepare the solution which is going to work, and in 2 years it's going to be completely legacy system.
It's a very good point. I've seen some custom systems or custom solutions which embedded in Python code or whatever type of coding, so some specific models, and it prevented them to expand, to accommodate the changes, because as you mentioned, there are new models coming here every day, and the models are more efficient, supporting language better, low inference costs, and so on. So the way we respond to this is always, we are not using, or we are not focusing only on one large language model, but we are using architectures that allow us to change the models very easily. Because there are certain types of models with certain interfaces, and we accommodate to those. So there is a lot of alternatives nowadays that can be switched without any issues. And we count with that because changing the model should be the best practice for all of the clients. You don't stick with one model for more than half a year, I can guarantee you.
Yeah. Okay. So how can I imagine it? Now, how I use the ChatGPT is that I always like copy something from the Google Doc I have. I ask the question, it gives me a result. I copy it back. It destroys the formatting and everything. Like the work is not that user friendly as I would imagine it can be. So how can I, implement this kind of stuff into the investigation process? Am I really forced to have the separate application to copy the information, and this kind of application is connected to the graph rack, as you said, and then I need to again extract it to some kind of link analysis or into the reports and copy back and copy here and so on. That's how I am used to work with the ChatGPT now. So am I able to solve the problem somehow better?
I'm strongly convinced about that. It works, don't get me wrong. It works for many people. Copy, paste, But from my experience, you can always have better interfaces for specific tasks that saves you time. And the time is the most valuable asset you have. So we work with the application that I introduced in the beginning, right, in the Argos. We have specialized screens for special tasks. So if you are interested in location of a specific target, whether it's mobile phone, person, vehicle, and so on, you have a map interface. When you deal with multimedia, you have a multimedia interface. When you deal with timelines, you have timeline interface. So why stick with just textual interface for everything, right? It's useful for generating output reports, but it's not, let's say, specifically useful if you want to ask questions about time, geospatial, and so on. So we are trying to tackle this to incorporate, let's say, the question answering techniques into the appropriate screen of the application, and also using specific widgets if somebody wants to stick with the AI assistant window or panel, if you wish. So I think the proper solution should be rather to implement these AI capabilities into the applications and to the existing workflows, rather than just taking it as a separate tool, to be honest.
Okay. And lately, I heard a lot about the AI bots or AI assistants. Am I able to somehow, use this for mitigate the repetitive work which is done by the staff? Because my experience is that the entities from the bank investigation, from the Ministry of Interior, from the Ministry of Defense, and all of these, like the investigators, they are dealing with the shortage of staff. So it might be a huge improvement. And as well as the problem is that a lot of workload of these guys are now like the paperwork, because the bureaucracy around the investigation is huge.
Right. So in this topic, we don't call them assistants. Assistants are like chatbots that are specifically tailored for you and help you like exchange communication with you. Okay, they'll help you to do something. We call them AI agents. These are the automated tasks that do specifically designed work for you. You can have multiple agents chained together, as you suggested, like virtual AI team that works for you on some more complex tasks. So these AI agents, they work 24/7, right? They don't have vacations. So that's the great opportunity we have here. As you suggested, there is a lot of bureaucracy sometimes, and a lot of work that needs to be orchestrated. Like, for example, I need to create like output investigation report on some drug group, okay, drug dealers group. So in this fashion, I may instruct few agents to go over historical cases and find any links related to people on my watch list of that group. Second agent can request CDR records from mobile operator. Third agent can prepare a request for banks to provide us bank statements. Okay. Fourth agent can, let's say, look up data about the profiles of the targeted people. Fourth agent or fifth agent can put everything together and generate the draft. Next agent can give you some review for that draft and can suggest what is missing, and everything this can be orchestrated at once. You can have agents to fetch data from open source intelligence. So it's not only about working with text, it's also about fetching data from external providers, which is great. If you define that workflows that you do frequently and it may save your time, this is perfect platform to work with. And it's leveraging and utilizing all the capabilities we've been talking about previously. So it's still the large language model, but specifically designed subset of the AI agent chained together. And it goes by the architecture, okay? So this is another aspect we need to count with. Not only to be independent of specific large language model, but also to have architecture to support the AI agent orchestration in this fashion. Now, if you don't mind, I will try to summarize, because when we are talking about AI in software platforms for investigation or data analytics platform, it can be confusing and a huge topic because there are many aspects. So stop me if you have some question about these. However, when I think of AI inside data analytics, I start with a conversational interface and assistants, right? Typical chatbots. The only difference here is that via assistant, I can have assistant to help me query data only from specific source, or I can have assistant that gives me reviews for my reports. So I can, let's say, focus on more specific way of helping me. Then we have the agents we've been talking about, the automated bots that provide sequence of tasks for me automatically. Then I can have more, let's say, more specialized techniques like entity extraction. I can extract people, relationships, organizations from text. I can do the same as vision tasks for images and videos. So describe me what is happening in the picture. But I can have also the like GenAI things, like generate me textual reports, generate me requests for certain entities, right? Prepare me some documents. Prepare me summaries of the documents. I've seen a lot of times when guys needed to go through a large amount of data in the textual format just to find some specific information that wouldn't be possible to search with full text search because it was more generic topic, right? This is exactly where AI shines. And then everybody's talking about LLM these days, but it's not only this, right? We have the typical AI stuff that we've been working for many years. This is facial recognition techniques, speaker identification, speech to text transcriptions. Everything is AI based. It just somehow with this like hype for LLM, it got lost in the process. And there is one very important technique, which is called graph analytics. In our platform, we are using graph, not relational databases, but graph. Graph structure allows you to, let's say, store relationships and entities in a more complex form, and you can find hidden patterns within those relationships. Also, it allows you to ask more refined questions, like show me all people older than 50 of a certain nationality whose family relatives were investigated in any case related to this topic. Okay, and one of the documents in these cases should have reflect certain idea, or it should have mentioned certain vehicle, and so on. So this is allowed only because we use graph. And when you have information in graph, you can spot patterns. You can predict some behavior in the future. You can spot anomaly behavior, not only for transactions, but also for associations. Okay, so you can see whether the, let's say, links to different people for a specific target is different from his peers. This is allowed by graph machine learning analytics. We are using ArangoDB machine learning suite to do that. It allows us to perform classifications, anomaly detections, and predictions in the graph data. So all of this together, this is when we are talking about AI. This is how we are using it.
Yeah, but if I got it correctly, like, well, it's very important to have for all of these tasks, ideally a separate AI model. Because I would like to take a look at it as the separate parts of the whole, and I would like to be able to change them, to be able to maintain them separately, to not get vendor locked, to not get outdated with the specific tools.
Yes, and this is the approach we chose because we have, as I suggested in the beginning, data processing pipeline, and we are using like different connectors to different models in every stage of this pipeline, and this allows us to be very flexible. So when, for example, customer might have their own facial recognition techniques, or they have their own speech to text, any kind of these technologies, we can just switch them because we have the interface for that. So this is the logic we took, and nothing is hard coded, and nothing should be hard coded in any of your environments as well. I think the flexibility is very, very important.
Yeah, especially nowadays when the models are evolving so quickly.
And to be honest, it's good not only to replace, but maybe you can have two alternatives, right? Because it helps you to define the precision. You have always the choice whether to trust this and that. You can compare, you have the benchmark.
Got it. Good point. So let's take a look how it can looks like in the system we have. So
Right.
Yeah,
carry on.
Yeah. So this is one of the short videos showing how we are able to ask the questions in the natural language in the system we have. So we have some kind of a widget inside Argos, and we are asking the questions in the natural language for the investigation. In this case, we are talking about what males of Czech nationality younger than 40 years are in evidence as extremists and members of known criminal organization. This is the type of a question which is super complicated when we are talking about a relational database. To ask this kind of a question, we are using the graph database Martin mentioned. And as you can see, the model is asking the question and showing you the answer, which is quite what you would expect. But what is very important is that this kind of a window is implemented directly in the system. So you are able to explore the results further in graph, to show the results in the table. So it's like the opening window into the investigation, which is trying to help you with the work you now do as the investigator and show you how you can save time, because you can directly start exploring further in graph. You can open the results in the separate window in the same system, and the questions can be various.
So you start with typical questions about the, let's say, identification of the people of interest, and then you can continue your questioning about that subgraph. So for example, show me the timeline of Dominic's activity in relation to specific person in that case. Right? And again, it fetches the data from graph. And good thing is that it fetches only the data you're authorized to see. So the security is in the first place. Obviously, you can ask to any type of questions related to geospatial, timelines, relationship, multimedia. That's the cool part, because everything is ready inside the system. You can access the same questions, but LLM is a nice extension and giving you the conversational interface, right, Dominic?
Yeah. Yes. Here I can confirm the relationship between the entities, between the bank accounts. I can look at the geospatial data, as you mentioned in the example number 4. No, example number 5, I guess. So this is, again, another example of what kind of questions I am able to ask. And as I mentioned, this is like the geolocation data. So we are able to access all the functionalities in the system when we are talking about the timelines, geospatial connections via the LLM model, which is super user-friendly for the users. So in the end of the day, we are now able to sum up the first point of view of AI, where I saw the rainbow and the unicorn, with the experience we had. So I am able to fulfill these expectations, but I need to be very careful with relation into the sensitivity of the data and sensitivity of the investigation. So I need to use not out of the box LLMs. I need to be very careful about the security. And as mentioned by Martin, you should be very careful about the integration of LLMs, not natively.
Yes, my recommendations would be, do not fall for easy tutorials on the internet, because it seems to be very easy from the start. You can always use OpenAI APIs. You can run some Python scripts. It gives you application. But running secured pipeline and secure orchestration RAG pipelines for you is kind of tedious task, because you need to deal with all of the issues we discussed today, right? And it's specifically security, because security in the RAG and the LLMs is the huge topic. So this is what we focus right now in our platform and in what we do, basically. And I think graph RAG techniques is answer for a lot of potential issues where you have the fallbacks of the current AI techniques. So this is not available that easily, to be honest. And this is why, Dominic, maybe sometimes if you try open source or open models, open weight models, you get frustrated sometimes that the responses are not that good. And also what we addressed, choose wisely the LLMs, because we have a lot of languages here. We are from Czech Republic. We deal with Czech language. There are not that models available for you that works with this language. The same goes for Arabic. The same goes for other languages worldwide. So we need to choose the models wisely and maybe complement them together for certain capabilities. Some is good for one thing, another is good for another thing. So have the architecture open to be able to quickly switch them.
Exactly. Thank you for the explanation, Martin. And now we are coming to the end of the time we have for this webinar. So it's all from our side. Thank you for your presence over here. And now we have something like 5 minutes to answer the question if you have some. So feel free to ask any questions.
And before you do, maybe, we know this topic is difficult to tackle in 40 minutes, okay? It's impossible to show the specific examples. So if you're interested, of course, we are always available for any specific presentations dealing with certain more precise demos or showcases.
Do you mind if I ask you a question verbally? I tried to write it out, but it's probably a bit long-winded. When I'm doing a search on a large data set, and you guys know my experiences from London and the Met Police, then I want kind of all the answers. So in your example of how many 40-year-olds or whatever, I want to know all the 40-year-olds, and then I want to know how the system has filtered down, because you can be sure the defense are going to say, well, why did you pick my 3 guys and not the other 200, whatever? How is that handled in the system, if that's a reasonable question?
It's definitely a reasonable question, because you have always steps in the investigation, right? You filter with something, then you continue with something else, and you have, for each of those questions, you have the answers. So the point is that you can do the same in our application by clicking. So we open the catalog window of all these suspects, and you filter by nationality, age, and so on, right? Now, when using LLM and asking the question in natural language, we are always like running each question one at a time. And we always store the appropriate results for that questions, meaning you have your track record of all the questions, and you track your work, you can go back, you can see the results. So everything is stored within the system. And by the way, one of the benefits of our platform, for example, is that we audit every action inside the system. So we know precisely that this user asked this question in that time. And this gives you like idea of why you chose that.
And that is also good to mention that the LLMs in our approach, they are not doing the recommendation if you are not going to ask for it. So if I ask for all 40 years males, it is going to list you all of them, not do some kind of a recommendation based on another things you are not able to understand.
But to be honest, sorry, if I can, the GraphRag techniques now allows you to answer more generic answers about those suspects or subset of suspects, right? It wasn't possible before, okay? But now, since we have larger context windows and we have some abstraction techniques, we can give you some more generic answers. Like in the results, typically you have these people with modus operandi of this type. This wasn't possible before because we were dealing with too many information in very complex, limited technology. So now we can bypass that, which is good.
So 2 parts to your answer I like, Martin, was one, you are recording and saving the various iterations, if that's the best word.
Yep.
And of course, critically, you're auditing what's gone on. So thanks for your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
There is a question in the chat. Can HI enhanced digital reconstruction be used as admissible evidence in court?
All right. So to be honest, majority of the work we do is like supporting analysts with finding the proper answers and not specifically providing like the evidence to the case itself. We're trying to let them find the proper findings or see the proper findings, and then it's just the reconstruction of how to obtain this information is no longer. For example, we have integration to digital forensic tools, okay, like Celebrite output formats. So we are analyzing those data. We are giving you the option to see what might be of your interest, but we are not providing the hashes and information like this. We are not trying to mimic what is already established in the customers. So what we are trying to do is provide easy to use, simple interface for analysts who are specialized in finding information very quickly with very specific like idea. And this part of providing court evidence, really the legislation mandatory concepts inside, is something that we do not focus specifically, but it can be somehow addressed if we know the specific details.
Yeah, there's another question. If we are planning to expand to Southern Africa, yes, the answer is yes. Like we are able to provide the software worldwide, and we already do that. We have a couple of projects in the Southern Africa as well now running. So the answer for this question is generally yes. Another question, do you think these tools introduce any risks of data manipulation or inaccuracies? Yes, I will answer this one. Like about the data manipulation, the approach we are using is very safe for this kind of a topic. So if you are using the approach we showed today, there is not going to be any data manipulation, or we are trying to as well mitigate the inaccuracies. But if the question is asked in general, like with these kind of the tools, it can get tricky if you are not doing the correct approach. That's also the reason why we were we tackled this kind of a problem very carefully, because we see that if the investigators with their sensitive data approach the out-of-the-box model, the risk of the inaccuracies and the risk of some kind of data manipulation from point of view of LLMs can be huge, and the impact can be huge for the very critical sense of the investigation. So my recommendation from the point of view of what to use is to be very careful. Do not trust to anybody who is saying you, okay, I have the recipe for everything, because that smells with the problems of at least inaccuracies, but as well as with the problems of the data manipulation. And what is very important is to stay open with the architecture of the models. because if you are able to rely on the open architecture, it's the way how to be on the safe side. Martin, do you want to?
But to be honest, there are like many perspectives on this and many layers. But obviously, deep fakes and these kinds of techniques are dangerous, and it's hard to detect. That's clear. I always say garbage in and garbage out. The information flowing in, like they influence the output. I'm pretty sure about that. But the good thing is we can actually apply certain assistants to just verify if the information that provided within set of documents are contradicting some past findings that we have inside the system. So it can actually pinpoint you certain like things that can be maybe manipulated in terms of the content. So it's actually useful. With the ROC techniques, you can always compare, you know, what is incoming now and what I have inside the system, show me the differences. So it's very useful, which hasn't been possible before.
Exactly. And you can actually use the AI models to detect the data manipulation. So for example, when we are talking about the manipulation of the multimedia, you can always spot the anomalies, for example, in the metadata of the multimedia. So if there is somebody who is creating the deep fakes from the point of view of the visual creation, there might be some failures about the metadata. And I am quite sure that EASA had the webinar for this kind of a topic as well, because that's the topic, that's the very deep topic about how the AI is able to detect the AI produced data. And so far it was the last question. We are only 4 minutes late, which is, I think, a good job. So again, thank you very much for your presence today. We are very open to any kind of a discussion, so feel free